Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing great. For today's video, we're going to focus on continuing the dungeon level design. As I mentioned in the previous video, this is inspired by the Dark Souls franchise. In this video, we're going to focus on importing another asset pack that we need and then continuing the creation of the level design. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy this content. It really helps the channel grow. And let's go. Alright, the first thing you want to do is find this asset pack, the free medieval and war props on the Unity asset store. It's completely free, and import it. Let's just wait for it to be done. Alright, the asset pack has been imported. It's this one here. You can rename it to something a bit more clear. That's just the name of the studio. Alright guys, the next asset pack that you will want to import is called Free Fire VFX URP. It's made by Unity and you can find it for free on the Unity asset store. So just download it and import it. Next thing we want to do is open the folders, click on the materials, select them all, and then go on to Edit, Rendering, Materials, and convert selected built-in materials to URP. Let's click on Proceed, and this will convert all the materials so that we can actually use them. As you can see, they're not purple anymore. Alright, now that's done, we can continue with the level design. However, before we do that, this is very dark and difficult to see, so let's do a couple of things to improve visibility. First of all, let's disable the roofs, which will allow more light to get in. Let's disable the post-processing effect, and let's duplicate the current directional light. Rename this to directional light editor, and let's increase the intensity of this to something around 2. Alright, this way we can simply deactivate the one that we don't need and then proceed with the one that we need. That's usually how I like to do things. That's completely up to you. If the fog is also bothering you, you can also go on Window, Rendering, Lighting, Environment, just scroll down and untick the fog. Alright guys, let's now continue with the level design. So next thing we want to do is create a room here that will connect to 3 more pathways. Each will lead to their own part of the map. For now, let's focus on this specific room. So let's take this floor, duplicate it as per usual, make sure it's properly attached. If the grid gets in the way of visibility, you can always untick it here. As you can see, now it's not visible anymore. So that's completely up to you if you want to do that. Let's now select this and duplicate one on the side. Another thing you can do instead of moving it is simply press T and just adjust the size to wherever you need. There might also be a faster way of doing it. That means that the floors won't be exactly all the same size, but it doesn't really matter, to be honest. As long as there's no overlapping or no issues, that's completely fine. So we want this floor, this room, to be 3 by 3. So now that we have this, we can duplicate it. So what I'm going to do is actually change the size of the increment snapping from 0.25 to 0.1. That will give me a little more precision when handling this. Can increase the size slightly, like that. And then let's repeat this process once more to complete the floor plan of the room. Alright, now that's done, we can populate it with walls. So as usual, let's take the wall that we want, duplicate it and adjust its position. We're going to leave one empty here for a doorway. Let's now take these 2, duplicate them, rotate them by 90 degrees, and let's do the same for the other side. In this case, I will want the doorway to be in the center, so what I'm going to do is leave an empty slot in the middle and move this to the side, like that. And we're going to duplicate these 2, move them to the side, let's finish up with this edge here. So next thing we want to do is go on to the Decrepit Dungeon Light folder, open it, open the Prefabs folder, go on to Doorways, and just drag the doorway A into the room. Let's rotate it 90 degrees. Like that. Let's place it on the edge. Like that. Let's make it a little bit less wide so that it fits with the width of the wall. It's perfect. And now let's decrease the size of the wall slightly so there's no overlapping. Seems about right. Let's repeat this process for the other two. Alright guys, before we place the doors into the correct place, let's make sure that the doorways game object are in the correct folder into the walls. Let's close this. Let's now drag door A into the scene and place it correctly. It seems to be slightly too tall. As you can see, it's going through the wall, so I'm going to lower it a little. And we're going to keep it close. We're going to do the same for this door right here. And finally, we'll repeat the process one more time for this door right here. But with this one, we'll make sure that the door is actually open. So in order to rotate it from pivot, just go onto here, toggle to handle position, click on it and change from center to pivot. If the asset is properly imported, it will rotate from there. So we're just going to rotate it and keep it open like that. So the player will intuitively know that that's the direction they have to go towards. Later on, what we will do is that if the player tries to interact with these closed doors, a message will appear on screen that says locked or does not open from this side. Alright guys, let's make sure all the doors are in the correct folder. Next thing we want to do is place a bonfire in the middle. For those of you that haven't played Dark Souls or are not familiar with the reference, a bonfire is nothing but a save point. So if the player dies at any point, they will respawn at the latest bonfire they have unlocked. So that's what we're going to do next. Let's open the Ingus Media Studio, the prefabs folder, and drag the bonfire B into the center of the room. Now keep in mind that this asset pack is quite low poly, so there are a couple of things we want to do in order to make it a bit more visibly fitting for the scene. First of all, let's drag it down a little bit so it's not floating. Next, what we're going to do is select the object, open the prefab, and let's make sure that the fire is actually disabled. We don't need this PFX, we have our own. So save the prefab, go back. The reason why we're doing the prefab is so that it applies to every other bonfire that we're going to use, and not just this one specifically. We're also actually going to decrease the size from 1 to 0.7, because currently it's too big. Let's save it. Alright guys, the next thing you want to do is click on this specific prefab, the medium smoke fire, and drag it into the bonfire prefab. Make sure that play is on so you can see it. Just drag it into the center. Alright. This looks okay, but there's still a few polish touches that we need to do. The flame is a bit too small, the wood is a little bit too big, and overall the wood looks too bright. So let's polish it a little. Let's start with the flame by opening it, go on to flames, and the start size, let's increase this to 1. and 1.8. Then the flame secondary has increased the X to 1.3 and the Y to 1.7. That's better. Then let's apply these changes to the prefab. So we're going to go on overrides and apply all. Basically what this will do is that it will add the fire and all the changes we made to this prefab to the actual prefab, so that now if we, for example, go on to the bonfire folder and we drag it into the scene, you will see all the changes that we made. As you can see, it already comes with the new PFX that we used. That's good. So let's rename this to just bonfire. Let's click on the firewood and locate the material that it's using. Let's click on it, and now let's make this a little bit darker by dragging the color into the more dark brown shade, something like that. And then let's adjust the metallic map to 0.2. That's better. Alright, last thing we want to do for this is decrease the size of the wood a little bit. So let's click on the bonfire, select the prefab, and adjust the size to 0.55, 0.55, 0.55. Let's save it, go back, let's click on it to see the fire. That seems a lot better. Let's drag it up a little bit since it's too much on the floor right now. Okay, that will do for now. Obviously we will apply all sorts of polish later down the line, but this is fine for the time being. Let's save the scene. Alright guys, next thing we want to do is create a bonfire folder into the environment section. So let's go on to create empty, bonfires, and let's drag the bonfire into it. We can also make a folder for the torch, so let's do the same, torch, and let's drag it into it. Okay, once that's done, we can now create the ceiling for this part of the map. So let's reactivate the roof and basically select the floor, all 6 tiles, duplicate them and just drag them all the way up. That, make sure it's the same height as the rest. That's good. Okay, now that we have a ceiling, let's reactivate the post-processing. Let's deactivate the directional light editor just to get an idea of the light, so we can adjust the bonfire light accordingly. Let's click on it, let's open the prefab, let's open the VFX, and in lights, let's scroll all the way down and adjust the range to 5 and the intensity to 1. Alright guys, last thing we want to do before we have a look at the results is go on to the player, click on the main camera, make sure that post-processing is enabled, and then click on the player follow camera object and increase the vertical field of view from 40 to 45. And with that, we're done. Let's save the scene and have a look at the results. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and it was useful. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe, it really helps the channel. Thanks to all of you who watched until the end guys, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.